This is everything you need to know about home inspections as a home buyer in 2024. Things change. I've made a lot of these videos about home inspections and all the different things that happen during home inspections. There's separate videos just for oil tanks, for sewer inspections, and there's a bunch just on home inspections. But I wanted to give you an update because now, especially where I am in New Jersey, things are a little crazy. So the way that you handle home inspections may be differently than you think. It's definitely different than your parents think that it works. So I'm going to give you a general overview on what to expect in home inspections, what you can do, and where you should be getting the best advice. All right. I've been walking home since I was like 5 years old with my dad, and I'm old. So I've gone through thousands of homes, and this has helped me develop a system for understanding home inspections and also reacting to the current market in New Jersey, which is extremely seller friendly, which doesn't mean you give up all your rights as a home buyer, but it does mean that your inspections are going to be much more limited than your parents may have thought or that you may have thought in the past. So, congratulations if you're under contract on a home, because that means in New Jersey, you're moving forward towards home inspection. In some states, you actually do the inspection before the contract. That's the way it is in New York. But in most states, you're going to agree on a contract, sign it, and then once you're under contract and you pass attorney review, you're going to head into home inspection phase. And that's your next stage, which does involve later a supplementary negotiation possibly. So it is something to be aware of, as that's the next point in time where your deal could fail for a number of reasons. The first thing you need to do is find a licensed and reputable home inspector. That's usually going to come at the recommendation of your real estate agent. And I would tell you that if you have a good real estate agent, you should be trusting them on who to use for home inspections. Personally, my home inspector, I've used at least 100 times. I know him. I know I can rely on him. I know he's not an alarmist. And I know he's not there to go either way. He's there to give a very, very careful overview of the whole house without being crazy about anything. And his reports are going to be big. They're going to be anywhere from 50 to 120 pages, depending on how big the house is, and he has to do certain things in there and note certain things. And that doesn't mean that you can ask for everything, and we're definitely going to get to that. But once you've found your home inspector, you're going to set up that time. You're going to get a time that works for the sellers, the listing agent, and for us, and for the home inspector. In the state of New Jersey, these are the inspections that you want to be doing, hands down, almost without fail. If you're in a traditional home area where you're on public water and public sewer, you're going to do a regular home inspection, which includes a termite check, which is wood destroying insects. You're usually going to add radon, which you should, unless you're in the upper floor of a condo. And that's going to check for the gas radon from the ground. I'll explain that as well. You're also going to get your regular home inspection with those two. Then your supplementary inspections that you really must do in most parts of New Jersey if you're looking at single family or multifamily houses is an oil tank sweep and also a sewer inspection where you jam a camera down the sewer line to make sure that it has no breaks or roots all the way to the street. So those are your general inspections that you're going to do. If you're in an area that has septic tanks, which there are a lot in New Jersey, you're going to get a separate septic inspection. That's very, very important that you do that. The septic companies are very good at understanding that. They're usually going to report those findings to the city. So when you do have issues with septic, it's usually going to be on the seller to remedy, just like it is for oil tanks if you find one. Wells are done by the owners. The owners have to test the water. There's no structural inspections for wells. So that's your overview of the services that you want. And let's get into kind of what happens on inspection day. So when you show up at inspection, you need to be ready to kind of have a look around. My best recommendation to my clients when they go under contract is during the inspection, I want them to be busy measuring stuff, figuring out where they're going to put their furniture, getting their kids adjusted to the rooms, and basically planning on it going well. Because the hardest thing for an inspector is if everybody's following them around the whole time. It doesn't mean that you're going to miss everything. We're all going to be present in the house, your agent, or me, if I'm your agent, the inspector, and anyone who's there with you for that inspection. Those should be the only parties there. I let the inspector do his thing. And after he goes through each floor, I ask him if there's anything major. And at that time, we take a quick peek at it to see what he's talking about. And then at the end, we'll go through anything major and do some call outs right there so that the buyer can understand what the major things are and see them in person. But you don't need to follow him from room to room to just watch him check windows and put a little thing into the outlets. That's not going to be a great use of time. We usually spend the time looking around, making plans, and then again, making sure that we see any of the major items that come up. So when you are doing an inspection, you do want to go down in the basement, either when the inspector's there at the end. One of the most important things that you learn from your inspector is where the main water shutoff is. That's because later, if you have some type of water explosion from a dishwasher or a hot water heater, you want to know where you can turn off the water to the whole house. And when you move in, you should just put a tag on it so you know this is the main water and this is how I turn it off. Very, very important. Any safety issues, it's also important. And the basement is really where the majority of the major issues come up because they're not always visible on photos. And this is where you're looking for structural problems, water issues, mold, anything like that, or issues with any of the utilities that are there, being your HVAC or your furnace, hot water heater. You want to make sure you're checking the ages of those. One thing to note is that products or utilities that are near end of life, you're not going to get a credit for that in New Jersey. If these things are working, you're just going to get them. Even if they're going to break at any time, if they're working fine at the time of the inspection, it's unlikely that you're going to get a credit. And most sellers would not even entertain that for a second because they're actually operational. The things that you're looking for are major items, structural, environmental, safety, fire, things that are hazards that could harm your family. And most inspectors' reports, those are going to be marked with red or something to identify that it's a little bit higher priority than some fixes that you just may decide to do later. One thing that you need to keep in mind about home inspections is you're buying an older home most of the time in New Jersey. Sometimes it's in the 1800s, early 1900s, and even if you're buying a home that's 10 years old, it comes with wear and tear. All homes are sold as is in New Jersey. That doesn't mean that you don't have the right to inspections. It just means that you have the expectation that these homes have been lived in. So you're not going to get credits for things like loose doorknobs, windows that don't go up perfectly. Those things in the old days you may have been able to negotiate, but it's very, very rare now in a seller's market that you'd have access to any tic-tac requests. Again, if you go through and there's no major things, sometimes you can slip in a couple things and just say like, hey, we didn't find anything major if you wouldn't mind doing these things. After the inspection, your agent and your attorney will go through the inspection that you get, the whole report, and you're going to make requests to the other side on things that you want either repaired or a credit for. Most of the time for my home buyers, I'm hoping that we get a credit instead, unless it's urgent that something needs to be fixed, because I would rather have my clients get the money and be able to hire their own people to do the job correctly instead of somebody that you just don't know. You will get proof of things that are done. And as long as you review the proof that the sellers did them, that's also fine. But most of the time, people are going to prefer a credit on both sides. So you're going to go through the report, you're going to pick out the major items, which is usually the limiting language that you're going to need to use to win an offer in the state of New Jersey. You're looking for things that maybe there is a real structural issue. There are a couple supplemental inspections that you may need to do. If there is an identifiable slope or something major with the structure, bad support, you will get a structural engineer to hop in and see how bad that is, or if it's really that big of a deal. And then in the alternative, if you're going through the house, you're looking for things that are going to be a little bit abnormal. Chimneys in the state of New Jersey are normally as is. Probably 75 to 90% of the listings list chimney flues and fireplaces as is. So most people aren't going to do these level 2 chimney inspections. Your home inspector just will identify physically what they can see if there's any issues. You might choose to do a supplementary inspection from that, but it's very unlikely that you'll be getting credits on a chimney at any time. The structural integrity of the chimney is definitely a different story, as that's not the heating source. You know, if the actual chimney part is falling off or separated from the house, that is possible that you may be able to negotiate that as a structural element that is a major hazard. So again, you're looking for major things. Mold is an issue, but remember that no inspector can identify what is or is not mold. So it's suggested mold. Little things are easy to bleach out. You're looking for major things that usually happen near a water source. A lot of pipes are going to have corrosion. This is just kind of normal. Doors are going to be uneven. Windows aren't going to be perfect. This is just called buying an old house that somebody else has lived in. You're not going to be looking for tic-tac requests like that, or you're never going to win or close a deal in New Jersey. Again, it doesn't mean give up everything. It just means understand who's in control. And unfortunately for buyers, fortunately for sellers, right now sellers are in control. There's limited inventory. They know they're getting multiple offers, so they're able to kind of guide what they want, and they're not really going to agree to a ton of repairs. I think most people are reasonable in this context, but that can, that can be a case-by-case basis. So after you make your repair requests through your attorney, those get sent over to the seller's attorney. They're going to review them, agree to either a credit or some partial credit, or to do some of the things or to not do some of the things. And that's where your negotiation could stall. One really, really important thing to remember when you're sending out negotiations on inspection, most people don't know this. The second that you send out an inspection request, the seller can actually cancel. They can just say, we're not going to do that, and they can cancel. So every time it's a counter argument, you're going to send that, it's a counter offer. So people have gotten in the spot where they're just going back and forth over like one little thing, and one party just decides to cancel. And that is a verified way that you can cancel if the parties cannot agree in inspection. So as a buyer in a very hot market, you just won over 15 offers. You can't really mess around too much with the inspections, because they can just hop in and go to a backup offer at any time that they don't like the negotiations the way they're going. They can just decline, pull out of that deal, move on to the next one. However, it is in everybody's best interest, since you've already been under contract, you've already done the inspection, it's in both parties' best interest to continue on with the deal if you can come to an agreement. Because the way that we would present it on the buyer side is, hey, look, this is going to come up on any inspection, so it's better if you just resolve this with us, because you're going to get out of this deal, go to another deal, they're going to find the exact same things that we found. And that's how you negotiate for home buyers. You're just letting them know, we're not doing anything crazy. Everybody should find that stuff. And if your point of view as a seller is you hope the next person doesn't find something, that's not really a great seller strategy. So once you agree on the inspection contingencies, the attorneys agree, hey, we're going to do this, or you get a $5,000 credit, that's it. That part of the engagement is over. Your home inspection contingency is now closed. Again, in the state of New Jersey, if there's a pool, you're going to do a separate pool inspection. That's another alternative inspection that you're going to do. If there's a pool, you always want to do that. Regular home inspectors don't often all do pools, so you're going to need a separate company to do that. Once your inspection contingency is resolved, you're really just moving on to appraisal and then handling the mortgage. Make sure you meet all of the conditions for your mortgage. That's really how inspections work. It is a seller's market most parts of the United States right now in 2024. So a lot of us as buyer's agents are telling our buyers, yeah, you don't really want to ask for that. They could just hop out and grab something. Buyers get miffed, but buyers don't realize the sellers have a lot of options right now. So I wouldn't think of it as you're losing any rights. I don't allow my buyers to waive home inspection or to waive anything. But if you're making offers right now, you're usually going to get offer guidelines that tell you these things are going to be as is, and you're going to need to accept that. On a side note, if you're a first-time buyer, you should not be buying as-is properties that are totally as-is. That completely collapses your rights to make inspection repair requests. That's a video for another time. There is an old video on that, but when we get to the end here, on both sides of me, I'm going to put the oil tank and sewer inspection. Those are the older videos. They're still applicable. I'll probably update them. I hope this has been helpful. My name is Jonathan Green. I run a team called Streamline Properties in the state of New Jersey. We're brokered by Real. I've been doing this my whole life. I've been investing my whole life for more than 30 years. And now I use it as an on-market real estate agent for the last 10 years to help home buyers and home sellers figure out the ways to find win-win agreements. It's not an adversarial business, although some people make it that way. It's a collaborative business. and I hope this has been helpful. You can find any information if you want to get in touch with me or the team at streamlinedwithad.properties. Have a great day.